Andy Muschietti was not in the news this week.
It's surprising,
so
right?
he will no shots from me this week to Andy Muschietti. So we're at like a little truce maybe. So waving the white flag for a little bit.
Another fool steps up to the plate.
Yep, we got another one. We got my man Bob Iger. Is that how you say his name? Iger.
Yep.
Disney CEO Bob Iger on Marvel and Star Wars. He is pulling back. Okay, and his reason for this is he says that there's too much content out here. Right? We got all these shows. There's too much content, so people can't focus. He's saying that because there's so much out there, that's why the recent movies have underperformed.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying, Bob, is because you guys made The Secret Invasion and WandaVision was a great show,
right.
Loki, because you made all these really good shows, you had to make shitty movies to go along with them?
Right.
Like, what does one have to do with the other?
Absolutely nothing.
Welcome to Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian. How we doing this morning?
Good morning, sir.
Awesome, dude. So we're gonna hop into some stuff here. We got some news going on this week in comics, as always. Some good stuff and maybe some not so good stuff. I'm not gonna, I'm be honest, Adrian. I guess a warning in advance. There's some upsetting news here this week.
Yep.
There is.
There is.
Yep. So we'll get into that in a second, and then we have Secret Invasion. We're gonna do our little toe dip real quick, and then later we'll do our deep dive. And then we're going to settle our debate, Adrian. You said to me a few weeks ago that the universe agreed with you as far as the Batman. So we're going to list ours, and we're going to see what the universe, what you guys say.
Right. Okay.
So, but yeah, we'll rank our top five, or not our top five. We'll rank live action movie Batman and Bruce Wayne because there is a big difference between the two. So we will do that later today. But right now, we're going to get into our toe dip for Secret Invasion Episode 4. So we've not discussed this between each other yet at all, so this isn't planned, guys. I'm going to give this episode, Adrian, I think I ranked last week too high after watching this one. After watching this episode. So it's almost like if I could go back, I dropped last week to like a 7.5.
And that's still high.
You think that's still high. I'm going to give this one... Only because I said 8 last week, I'm going to give this one an 8.2.
I'm sticking with my 5 point whatever, maybe 6. These are sleeper episodes.
Got it.
I am pleasantly surprised about one thing that happened, but outside of that, this is still, backstory to me. This is still filler stuff, and it's boring.
Yeah, so you think it's boring. I really enjoyed this episode. Again, we won't spoil anything here, but I think my only critique about this episode, Adrian, is the length of it, and this just goes back to the thing. I'm like a broken record here. You're making a 6-hour movie or a 6-episode movie,
right?
Or I'm sorry, you're just making a movie and you're cutting it up into 6 pieces.
Correct.
Because one episode's an hour, one episode's 37 minutes, one episode's 10 minutes. Like, what's the 5th episode going to be? Like 5 minutes?
I don't know. I think it's almost like they're making the credits at the end longer.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of the hour that makes up the movie, but it's definitely shorter.
Yeah. But I think this episode, I think it moved the story along enough, even though it was short. I think it moved the story along enough. I think it really, but it also sets up episode 5 and 6. Like there's a lot riding on those 2 episodes. Like we're kind of at the peak of this show right now, and these next episodes, these next 2 are really going to make or break whether this series is a success critically, in my opinion.
Well, I agree. Hopefully they'll pull something, some rabbits out of their hats, some rabbits.
Yeah.
Because at this point, they've kind of lost me as an audience on the last 2 episodes.
Got it.
They really got to get going on this thing. But again, like I said, I pleasantly surprised about at least one thing that happened in the last episode. So we'll see where that goes.
And from a spoiler-free standpoint, I would say, Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson has shined throughout this series, and we get to see more of that in this episode. Talos, I was thinking, after the episode, like I really, prior to this show, I didn't really care about Talos as a character. I mean, he was in Captain Marvel, but he was kind of like a sideline, and he shows up at the end of Spider-Man for like 15 seconds.
Right.
You know, I've really grown to like his character after watching this show.
Right.
They introduced some new characters. They also introduced some new characters, but they were absent from this episode. Like there was one, like, you know, Sonya wasn't in this episode at all.
Right.
And I think that was a letdown because she had been featured pretty prominent in the first couple. So yeah, I think again, moves the series along enough, kind of sets up a lot for these next 2 episodes to take care of. So I'm gonna say I say 8.2. You said 5, 6,
5, 6.
5 or 6. So I'll be interested to see once it finishes up where we rank the overall series. Because even though I'm ranking these high, depending on how it ends, I mean, I could be like, this is a 4. You know, or who knows? Maybe the end's so great, Adrian comes around. Never know.
Exactly. It could be another Game of Thrones ending, as far as we know. You know, but I mean, also, before we start spoiling this thing at the end, we had a couple of predictions come through. So that's pretty exciting as well.
Yeah. So like we've told you guys week in and week out, we know what we're talking about, right? We got the goods here, like as you said, we got the goods. So that's it for the toe dip. We'll do our deep dive a little bit later. Now we're gonna get into which has become, I think, my favorite part of this show, Adrian, is what we call here on Only Comics Newsflash, buddy.
That's right.
That's right. Because what's happening right now is we're about to lay it down. There's some stuff going on in comics. Some of it that seems pretty cool. Some of it that's honestly, it's got me a little pissed off.
Right. Right. I agree.
So we can't control it. So what are we gonna do? Like most people who can't control it, we're gonna bitch about it right here on Only Comics. Right? It's what we do.
That's right.
So starting off with my man, this dude's about to get added to the Andy Muschietti. You know what, dude? Right. Andy Muschietti was not in the news this week.
It's surprising,
right?
So
he will no shots from me this week to Andy Muschietti. So we're at like a little truce maybe. So waving the white flag for a little bit.
Another fool steps up to the plate.
Yep, we got another one. We got my man Bob Iger. Is that how you say his name? Iger. I'm gonna go with Iger.
Yep.
Disney CEO Bob Iger. On Marvel and Star Wars, he is pulling back. Okay, and his reason for this is he says that there's too much content out here. Right? We got all these shows. There's too much content, so people can't focus. So because there's so much content, even though the shows are doing pretty well, right? Yep. Regardless of how you feel about a couple episodes, but he's saying that because there's so much out there, that's why the recent movies have underperformed. So what you're saying, Bob, is because you guys made The Secret Invasion and WandaVision was a great show, Loki, because you made all these really good shows, because that happened, you had to make shitty movies to go along with them?
Right.
Like, what does one have to do with the other?
Absolutely nothing. I think Disney, in my mind, Disney has always not been the right fit for comic book characters. They saw something, they saw a product that they thought they could, integrate. Most certainly did not digest it, because comic books are primarily the characters, the storyline. They're pretty R-rated for the most part.
Yeah.
And Disney's family values kind of genre doesn't really play well with them. So I've always thought that they were a bad fit. I think Marvel should have stayed, its own franchise, or at least bought out by a different company so they can remain small, nimble, being able to, move with, what's going on. And Disney's just stagnated this stuff. But they're not talking about the Disney stuff that has also done things similarly.
Right. Yeah. They underperformed, right? All these movies.
Exactly.
And I don't know about you, I didn't see a whole, laundry list of new Disney shows on there.
Exactly.
So what's that excuse? The Marvel stuff mess up the Disney shows, maybe?
I don't know. I think what they're responding to politics. They're responding to what's going on with the actors. They're responding to the writers thing. There's a lot going on. And again, Disney is a God company, and unfortunately, they're able to veto something that in their mind is not doing what they think it should be doing. Right. While their main product, the actual Disney products, that's what the focus should be. They should, again, like what was that oil company, Mobil or Texaco or whatever in the back, like AT&T, break that bad boy up, move Marvel back over to an independent something, and then go on the strength of that, because the actors and the directors and the writers, they will come, but I think Disney is just in the way of itself when it comes to the comic side.
Yeah, it's kind of it's the problem with a lot of industries, right? At the end of the day, it's a business,
Right.
You know, it's like we as fans, you know, we're here for the fandom. We just want to watch the stuff, want to buy the hats, do all this cool stuff, enjoy it. But there's a company behind all of these brands that needs to make money, and unfortunately, you know, this stuff that happens. I mean, this came about. It's a budget thing. They cut whatever is 5.5 billion in cost cutting last year, and they're looking at the movies and shows, and they are expensive to put on. And the other thing is the companies are they're greedy, and this will kind of, I won't spoil one of our next segments, but it will lead right into it. It's like you got companies wanting to make more money,
right?
You know, and they're looking at the streaming. We need to make more money off streaming, so then they're cutting other people like writers and actors out to pay the big businesses.
Right.
So. You know, typical corporate stuff, right? But it's just it affects us because we want to see the shit. Do we want the shows? I'm good. Keep giving me shows.
Right, and we're the one that's suffering. You know, we're suffering, and the essence of the characters are suffering in the movies. You know, obviously the writers are suffering in this, and it's interesting that they're cutting more out of their budget than what they actually paid for Marvel back in what was it, 2009?
Yeah,
they paid what they paid $4 billion from Marvel back in 2009, and they're cutting at least that amount, you know, out of their budget. It's ridiculous. Anyway,
next, Deadpool 3. So this is kind of, you remember I said we had good and we had bad?
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have dessert first, okay? We're gonna have the good first. Well, you know, partly why I'm wearing this hat today, Adrian, is we saw some photos this past week, some set photos that, in my opinion, are a thing of beauty.
Yep.
You know, this is something that Wolverine. I mean, you're a big Wolverine fan.
Yep.
I'm a big Wolverine fan. I'm a big X-Men fan. I'm a big classic blue and yellow, Jim Lee, you know, early 90s X-Men 97 fan. And one of the rumors and one of the things that we've been asking for ever since Hugh Jackman originally picked up the claws, right?
Right.
We wanted to see the iconic blue and yellow suit.
Right.
And we got to see a pretty fucking cool version of that from these set photos. Not perfect. There's a couple things. It looks, you know, I'll tell you my opinion. It looks a little tactical, right?
Yep.
And that has always been my complaint about the X-Men suits is they want to make them too practical.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, it's a comic book movie.
Yep.
It's okay if you got yellow tights on.
Yep.
It's comic book stuff, right?
That's right.
I mean, do we have people flying around and shooting lasers out their eye, and we're worried that their clothes look properly? You know, they look like real.
Right. The only thing I would say about that is I agree it does look a little too tactical.
Yeah.
And it's yellow, dude. I mean, this is like a yellow.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was glad to see the original uniform, but I was kind of shocked to see the yellowness of the yellow. So that kind of took me off. But also I noticed that it's all like long sleeve.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like cloaking the Hugh Jackman physique that we've grown accustomed to, maybe because he's like 70 years old now, and, you know, probably not as in good of a shape as he used to be, but you know, so maybe it's tactical in his design and his look, meaning tactically covering up his not so good physique anymore.
Yes, I would agree because I mean Hugh Jackman's like in his I think he's close to 60.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my other critique. Tactical suit, sure, I can get past that. I like the bright yellow. I'm with you. I'm surprised they went that bold.
Right.
Because I did think, and I wanted them to. Yeah. Because I'm like, dude, if we're gonna see this, if this is the last time Hugh Jackman's gonna play Wolverine, we're gonna get him on screen with Deadpool, who's over the top anyways.
Right.
Let's go balls to the wall, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I love seeing that yellow, but I think it's the arms, dude. I mean, he's in great shape for especially someone who's almost 60.
Right.
But you like Thor, Chris Hemsworth pulled this look off, right? Because if you remember the first Thor, I think he had sleeves.
Right.
And then he got a little bigger, and then he started playing Thor without the sleeves, and the look, it was like iconic looking, right? But Chris Hemsworth's arms are they're the size of Hugh Jackman's legs.
Right.
So I believe it's what you're saying. I bet they put the suit on. They're like, oh, we got skinny arm Wolverine over there. And listen, I'm not knocking dude. He's in phenomenal shape. He's in better shape than me, and I'm 15 years younger than him.
It'll be interesting to see what the mask looks like if they incorporate the mask.
Yes.
So I'm assuming these are like early photos.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see what the mask looks like if they do don it.
Yep. That's probably my last. Not an issue because you're right. We're only seeing a few photos, but I want to get a look at this mask. And actually, I hope they put the mask on. Right. I hope this is not like something where we're going to give you a little bit to like this is the last time we got to go all in. There's we nothing left on the table. So I really like seeing that. I like seeing the set photos. There was a part of it, I don't know if you caught this, where the 20th Century Fox logo
No, I didn't see that.
was crumbled up in the back, and they're fighting in front of it. So I feel like whatever scene they're shooting here is going to be real meta. So who knows? It might even be like a joke before the main movie even gets started. Before the opening credits.
Right.
So, anyways, excited about that.
Yep. Well, I'm glad to see. Who is it? Morena Baccarin.
Yep.
I like her as an actress for playing that role. I'm glad she's coming back, and I'm surprised to see Jennifer Gardner as Elektra.
Yeah.
Coming on board in this one.
Yep.
So that's surprising.
Which
is actually pretty cool because I've only seen a couple of Elektras on TV and in film.
Yeah.
And I think she kind of does it for me.
Yeah.
As that character.
Yep.
Not too many people can pull that off. So I'm glad to see her name on the roster.
Yeah, I thought she was decent. I remember, it was back in the old Ben Affleck Daredevil, who was also, did you see that? I think we mentioned that last week. He's rumored to be in this movie as well, along with like everyone who's ever been in an X-Men movie, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen. Right. But now we had the dessert first, Adrian.
Yep.
We had the good news first, and now the bad news is Disney shuts down production on the MCU's biggest upcoming movie, which happens to be Deadpool 3.
Right.
So
but didn't they move it up first? First it was supposed
they
to
did
be,
move it up first.
It was going to be November of 24. Then they moved it up to May.
Yes.
Now it's going to get delayed again. What? Probably back to November or later.
Yeah. Hopefully November. Hopefully not later. But it's due to this strike. We talked about it briefly earlier. But there's a couple organizations, the SAG, the RAG. And they're on strike. Basically, writers said, we're not working anymore.
Right.
Because they're negotiating. There's another, it's like two unions pretty much, right? You got the Writers Guild of America represents all the writers. Then there's this AFTRA. They represent the companies. And the companies, for streaming, there's no industry averages that they've agreed upon, right? So if you're writing on a show, there's an average. So if me and you are writers and I work for Marvel, you work for DC, DC can't lowball you because they don't like you, because you're newer. Like if I'm getting paid $1 million a year to write, and they can't lowball you and go, hey, dude, we'll pay you $10,000 a year. Right. There's industry there's standards, there's averages, right? That's where
as it should be.
As it should be. Problem is the way the recent agreement is written is it applies to shows on TV, but not streaming. And now these companies are being hurt with the cable ad revenue right now because, streaming's killing cable, right? Right. So they're being pressured by investors, Wall Street.
Yep.
They want to get returns because of all this money they invested in streaming. So the AF-TRA, their stance is, well, we'll just take it from the streaming and not pay the artists and not pay the writers of whatever, a fair amount, and that's where we'll recoup it, right? And the writers are like, yo, fuck that, we ain't working then, right? So, this is my version of what's going on, my Reader's Digest version. So May 2nd, the Writers Guild of America, their labor goes, hey, we're going on strike. We're not going to work anymore. And, that pushed back a handful of films. But thankfully, there were films that were about to start filming, and they could get them started without the writers, right? Because, I didn't know, I actually learned a lot of this recently. They have writers on set while they're filming. They have to have a certain amount of writers on set because if there's any changes that come up, they need the writer involved so they get the proper credit. And I guess that's another thing that these unions, these organizations do, is they ensure that everyone who works on the movie gets proper credit, right?
That was new to me too. I didn't know that, which is cool. Yeah. Because there's sometimes like some cool ad-libbing that goes on, and they want to make those changes. But I wasn't aware that they were right, because I thought that the script was done. Yeah. But by the time they started filming, and then they just went ahead with whatever. Yeah, they did some ad-libbing, but they just kind of like penciled it in and kept it pushing. But that's not the case. Well, that's cool.
And especially not the case with Marvel. I think, to your point, most big-budget Hollywood films probably work more like the way you're saying. But Marvel, they ad-lib and change so much stuff. Like, I remember reading that Iron Man 1, they barely had a script when they started filming. A lot of it was just improv. Nice. Hey, here's the scene, what it's going to be. Work a few, me and you go back and forth a few different times, and then the director takes the ones he likes. And
look at the success of Iron Man 1 with the ad-libbing, because they had people on set pay the people.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I'm at. My stance is the same thing. Dude, pay the writers. Right. Because if you're paying them X on a show, and then streaming's where it's at, you shouldn't pay them lower on streaming. well, we negotiated to get more ad revenue from cable, and well, that's on you. You're the company. You fucked that up.
Right.
It's not the writer's fault. And then now I don't know. I don't know if the actors. I don't know if you read this. They're now on strike. And I don't know if that's just to support the writers or if they have their own issue going on with, their union as well. I don't know.
So we got 3 separate groups on strike: the writers, the companies, and now the actors.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. And that just started on Friday the 14th was when the writers went on strike. And that brings us to Deadpool 3 production coming to a halt. I'm sorry, the actors. There were people walking out of like movie premieres and stuff.
Right.
It was like once like the news went out, they were on strike. There were a couple, I forget who they were, but a couple actors. Actually, I think it was my man Tom Cruise again. Tom Cruise back at it, but this time he's working his way back on my side because now he's moving he's out of the doghouse because he went on strike. He walked out of a movie premiere because of the writer's strike on Friday or when the actors strike. So
what does walking out of a movie premiere actually do? What does that say? Besides that, for me, if I walk out of a movie, the movie is so bad I can't even stomach watching the rest of it. So when a Tom Cruise walks out of a movie premiere, what does that mean to anybody?
Well, dude, I mean, we already know Tom Cruise is up here. I mean, he's the one who said The Flash was the greatest movie ever. So someone at his level walks out, dude. Right. There's no premiere no more.
Oh, there we go. Shut it down. Everybody else
shut
leave.
it down. But so Deadpool 3 has been shut down. The only movie that's still filming, I guess, for Marvel right now is Captain America. But if we're following this trend, I would assume they're going to be shut down soon, too, as well. So bad news there. Oh, we do have some DC news. Superman Legacy. They have casted some unexpected superheroes, the article says, Adrian. Nathan Fillion, who was he was in Guardians 3. He played one of those guys in those weird the flesh suits.
Bubble suits or whatever. Yep.
And Nathan's been, voice of he's a big voice actor for video games, a lot of other movies. He's actually voiced the Green Lantern in some animated films.
Right.
Okay, so they announced that the Green Lantern will be played by Nathan Fillion in Superman Legacy. So
this is what I'm not getting. Nathan Fillion, I mean, he's what, the Castle, the Rookie show, TV shows?
Yes, yep.
And I didn't know that he was a voice to some of the Green Lantern characters. However, where are all the young actors? Are there no young actors?
No.
There shouldn't be an actor strike when they can just go and coax all these skeletons from the grave to play these characters. Where are the up and coming? It's like they're not it's like with comics, right? They keep highlighting Superman, Batman. I don't know why the Flash is in there, at least this rendition. There's certain characters that they always push,
right?
And there's so many other characters that they could be bringing out. It's like they're doing that with these old actors. They want to bring up all these, seasoned per se people, but bring out the young actors that can actually play these superhero characters.
Right.
Superhero characters they're not an old guy's. That's like me getting in there with my beard playing, Green Hulk or something. I don't know. It's where are the fresh and up and coming actors, actresses in this, movie industry?
Yeah. You know who you should play, Adrian, with your beard? You remember at the end of the last Black Panther movie, Black Panther's son?
Yep.
You should play him.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's about the equivalent of what we see, right?
Yep.
But but what I've heard about this movie so far is that Superman is going to be younger than the other heroes around him, right? So these heroes are going to be established already. But here's my thing. You know what I thought when I heard Nathan Fillion is going to be casted as Green Lantern? My thought was nothing about the casting. I just thought, why the hell is Green Lantern going to be in the new Superman Legacy movie that's supposed to start the whole new story when the mistake that DC made the first time was they tried to rush the whole Justice League?
Right.
Why are we doing this again?
And why are they putting in older? Well, actually, the Green Lantern that he's going to portray is going to be Guy Gardner, not Hal Jordan, which at least that's a relief.
Yeah.
They can make anybody Guy Gardner. He's like a clown. Green Lantern. He replaced Hal Jordan in the comics at some point. So at least he's not playing the Hal Jordan character.
Yeah.
But I mean, why are they putting like this older version, it appears, of a Green Lantern in with a very young version of Superman who don't look like Henry Cavill at all? I mean, this kid, literally looked like he was like spliced from Henry Cavill.
He's
So
like a clone.
forget what we already know and love.
Yep.
Let's just go with somebody that looks like him, probably because he's less expensive. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So I think this is a mistake. I think that the Superman Legacy movie, I'm not that excited for it, to be honest. I was excited for the Batman Brave and the Bold until we heard about my boy Andy Muschietti directing it. Although, someone in the comments actually pointed out a good point. Now, the Batman segments of the Flash movie were some of the better parts. So, his argument was, well, maybe he could handle Batman. So I guess we'll see. But this, I'm like, why are we rushing this? Like, why? I even read that the Authority, another group who is gonna, they're gonna may appear in this movie. Hawk Girl, was that another one?
Yeah.
Like, they're announcing all these other heroes, and all these other characters. It's like, do we not now? I don't want to see a Superman origin again, but I wouldn't mind seeing like first couple years Superman before we get to all that.
Right. If you want to create a mash of superheroes, start out with like a Justice League, one, and go through the process. That way you can introduce these characters on a platform that makes sense.
Right.
Don't make a Superman movie, because Superman doesn't need other supporting cast. He doesn't need Hawk Girl. He doesn't need Green Lantern. He doesn't. I mean, this is just like the Flash, the last Flash. They had so many other people in it that it almost like it's confused. Well, whose movie is it really?
Yep.
So it sounds like it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So, well, that is it for Newsflash, buddy. It's fun as always. And my man Andy Muschietti made it out this week with no shots fired from myself. So good job there. Again, Disney CEO Bob Iger kind of took his spot this week, and maybe he'll be a punching bag for next week. No, who's gonna be a punching bag is the damn organization that's not paying the writers. Like you said, dude, pay the writers,
right? Pay
the actors, because without, I get it. We need all y'all work stuff out, but pay them, please.
In Miami, there's a radio station, 99.1. It's an urban radio station, hip hop. And they have this segment called the Donkey of the Week.
Yes. Yep. I know what you're talking about.
And that's always been funny to me. We need to come up with something like that for these guys, like Muschietti, Igor, whatever his name is. Something like Donkey of the Week. We'll figure it out.
Yep. And Andy Muschietti's the first one. So whatever we figure it out, whatever the only comic version of Donkey of the Week is, Andy Muschietti, you are the reigning champ right now.
There you go.
So next up, this is our deep dive episode number 4 of Secret Invasion. So we're over the hump. We're over the halfway mark. There's 2 episodes left. This episode, I gave it a 8.2. Adrian gave it a 5,
6. I go with a 6 only because I didn't go to sleep on this one.
Okay, 6. My biggest critique about it is just the shortness. And the other thing is, dude, what is up with the fake facial hair? It's the one thing that's distracting for me on Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, at least they cut half of it off. You just got a giant fake goatee now.
Yes,
instead of the full thing.
Like, just let him wear. Samuel Jackson has decent facial hair. Like, I get it. He's not Adrian.
Right.
I mean, but everyone can't have the beard like Adrian. But Samuel Jackson, I mean, it's very distracting to me. So that's for my feedback. Stop doing the fake beard, please, for the love of God. But so this episode starts with a flashback. Spoilers, right? This is our deep dive. We're gonna spoil it. So this is there's no turning back now. If you're staying with us, episode 4 will be spoiled. Flashback 2012.
Yep.
We got Priscilla.
Yep.
And Nick Fury. They're having dinner in Paris.
Yep.
And this is like right after Avengers 1, because she's talking about, I'm seeing all the stuff on New York, blah blah blah. Basically, is asking him if he was involved. She's like, says you look like someone that would be involved. I have a feeling you would have brought them together, whatnot. So they have a little. I thought this scene was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm surprised though. This Priscilla character, I've never seen her before.
No.
I would have thought that the Gaia character would have as much prominence as this Priscilla character. Yeah. So I'm kind of disappointed in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good flashback. It kind of like solidifies, how they even got together, became around each other, so on and so forth. Because they talk about some interesting things.
Yeah.
During that flashback. So that was pretty cool. But I'm just surprised that the Gaia character isn't more prominent at this point.
Yeah.
But the Priscilla character is. So something's going to be up with her.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So they talk or whatnot, and basically confirms it. And you mentioned Gaia, and what we see early on is a flashback to last week's episode where Gravik shot Gaia.
Correct.
Right? And then we see Gaia basically in the laboratory, whatever the hell you want to call it. She turns the machine on and does something to herself, which basically she gave herself. She turned herself into a Super Skrull.
Correct.
The extremist powers.
Yep. You saw that in the background, the extremists?
Yes.
That was pretty cool. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, here we go.
Yeah. Which I didn't get this. So I know we always talk about what we got right. But you know what? Here on Only Comics, when we're wrong, we're going to fall on the sword. Right. We're going to be accountable to each other, to y'all. So one of the things that I did not notice was I think it was last week, maybe the week before, when Talos and Gravik are having that little interaction, and Talos stabs Gravik in the hand, and he just rips his hand, away. And when he healed up, I didn't realize that he had the extremist power too.
Well, I didn't either. I mean, the assumption was that he was doing something super scrolly.
Yeah.
New word, new term.
Yeah.
Super scrolly.
Super scrolly.
He was doing something super scrolly, but we didn't know the origin of how he was going about to implement this stuff. So we find that out this week, which is Extremis, which is a product of who?
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Yep. Everything still goes back to Iron Man.
Yep.
And if you remember, I actually really like Iron Man 3. I feel like that's a movie that a lot of people, go back and forth on. It's probably a very divisive movie when it comes to the fandom, right? But are you a fan? I mean, you are a big Iron Man fan anyways, but yeah. So I always thought that villain, and I know people, didn't like the whole Mandarin fake reveal, but that Aldridge, whatever is, you remember,
I don't know his name.
Aldridge something. I always thought, dude, he was badass because he was pretty much impervious to pain.
Right.
Kind of reminded me of like the dude in Deadpool. What's his name? The guy who basically turns Wade into Deadpool, Francis.
Oh yeah.
Of him, he's just like can't feel pain.
Yeah.
But so to see that Gravik has that power, it's like holy shit, dude, this dude's a badass.
Yeah.
And then Gaia gave it to herself, so we saw her pretty much resurrect herself, so she's not dead.
Right. Which was kind of a prediction.
It was.
We talked about it. Because Nick Fury went away at some point, everybody thought he was dead, and he wasn't. Maria Hill, I'm still kind of waiting for her to pop up.
I think she's dead.
You think she's dead?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but Nick is dead, not really. Maria Hill dead, maybe. Gaia dead, not really. So that kind of seems to be a theme.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Yep. And then, so from that scene, we basically see Talos and Guy. And actually, we ain't going to go see. We're just going to talk. Scene by scene. So if y'all like, that didn't happen before that, I know, dude. Hey, listen, we're a lot going on. We watch this, get news, regular life. So, anyways, Talos, we see a scene with Talos and Guy talking, like a cemetery, maybe. And, Talos is explaining to Guy basically his plan, and his plan is to just continue to be good Skrulls here on Earth, right? And just hope that they're going to see what's in our hearts, and he's going to ask the president for help.
Yeah, I thought he punked out on that one.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, are you serious? Have you seen humans?
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
It's almost like, are you not watching the show you're in? I mean, dude, like the whole plot of this show is and this is why, like, I wish this was something that they showed more of the impact, but there's just so much going on in the show, is the whole conflict that's going on between the world nations right now.
Right.
Like, dude, the world is about at war in this show.
Right.
And I know we're only really focused on Nick Fury and these characters, but I mean, Russia thinks that the U.S. bombed them. And then in this episode, we see a Russian attack on a U.S. president. Like, this is extreme stuff, right? But yeah, Talos is just like, yeah, we're just gonna keep being good old Samaritans, and everything's gonna work out for itself. And Guy is like, dude, she walks off, she's pissed,
right?
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. I'm still surprised that with all the tech that they have access to, that they're not themselves looking for their own stuff.
Yeah.
Why can't you find your own planet? Why don't you go and transform Mars or anything?
Right.
Other than just sit around and kill everybody else because you pissed off.
Obviously, there's no Elon Musk that exists in the Marvel universe, because you're right. They would have just met up with him. They would have shot him a tweet. They would have slid into his DMs on Twitter.
Right.
Next thing you know, they're moving to Mars with Elon. You know?
Exactly.
But he doesn't exist in MCU apparently. But yeah, I think it was pretty soft of Talos, but which I think really partly what makes Talos such an interesting character to me because he's extreme and something like he killed a Skrull last week.
Right.
You know. But then he was pissed when Nick Fury killed the Skull Skrull. He's been back and forth. So very, very and that's one thing that I have liked about this show is the character development. It's they're not just black or white.
Right.
They're very gray. And that's been kind of the theme of Nick Fury for the entire time in the MCU. Then we see a scene we kind of follow up where the episode left off last week, if you remember. Priscilla's in the bank, the safety deposit box section of the bank and gets a call from who we thought was Rhodey, and he said something St. John's, like basically a church name, which Priscilla's in church and Rhodey shows up, so we confirm that.
Right. And
basically, he tells Priscilla to kill Nick Fury.
Right.
Right.
Now this is a prediction.
Yes.
My man Ed.
Yep.
I first launched that. He predicted that. We had discussed that. Rhodey was a Skrull.
Yeah, I think we all predicted that.
Right, but Ed predicted that he was behind all of this stuff.
Yes.
So it looks like it's going in that direction.
Yep. So like we've said before, if you want the predictions, if you want to know what's going to happen, if you want to know what's right, just come here. Only Comics. So we see that's right. We find out that Rhodey, talks to Priscilla. Priscilla now we don't know if Rhodey's a Skrull yet, or at this point.
We do. You missed that.
Oh, did we see that scene already? Okay.
Well, we don't know at this point in the movie.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
At this point, we've not seen him. Now we all predicted this last week, and he does, show us that this in the show,
Correct.
but we don't know that yet.
Right.
But it's like I feel like, and Don Cheadle, as much as you're like a few weeks ago, I was probably trashing Don Cheadle as Rhodey.
Well, we
trashed
both were.
him, but
we both were.
He's not. I would have preferred Terrence Howard to continue the role.
Yeah.
But seeing his range in this show, I'm starting to really appreciate this portrayal. Like he had a lot more to work with here.
Right.
But every time we see Rhodey, he's a little bit more off. Right.
Right.
And that goes back to our prediction, the Skrull.
Well, I like I said, I didn't like him as War Machine.
Yeah.
As Rhodey himself, but I really like Don Cheadle playing this political character.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his platform.
Right.
And he owns that thing. So I'm really glad that he's almost able to erase my impression of him as War Machine.
Yeah.
Because he's doing such a good job as this political figure.
Right. And that's probably more accurate for me, like the whole Bruce Wayne Batman thing.
Right.
I think Don Cheadle as James Rhodes, the political figure, the general, love it.
Right.
Him as War Machine, it's awkward to me every time I see his face in that skinny little neck and the suit and stuff. Like
right.
The hell, I'd have loved to see Terrence Howard in the War Machine suit.
Right.
So basically, she gets a kind of kill order, and we learn that my man Nick Fury, dude, he's listening the whole time.
Right.
Of course he is, right?
Of course he is.
Like, dude, Nick, what's one thing we've really got to see in this show is Nick as a character shine.
Yeah, but we also get to see Nick, basically crying like a little girl, or all the oh my god, my head. I'm still trying to stomach that, but whatever.
Is that because people like Michael Keaton coming back as Batman and being bulletproof has kind of ruined it? Like because Samuel Jackson, he's the older Nick Fury, dude.
Well, no, it's because Nick Fury should be able to keep his emotions under control regardless of who's around him or what situation he's in. Now, I would understand maybe he'll drop his head in his hand, his forehead in his hand, or something like that. But to go through all this, oh my God, with the head twisting and all these, the whole body movement twisting thing, that's a little bit much for someone of, Nick Fury's character to me. That's just me.
Yep, I gotcha. So Priscilla gets home and finds out Nick Fury's wedding ring is in his little tray. He's not wearing it. So she thinks he's gone, and then we hear something going on in the kitchen. He's preparing some, tea, some lunch,
or something,
right? And he's acting a little strange.
Yep.
And she's acting a little strange, right? So, she asked him about the ring. He's like, oh, I just came in the back door. I forgot, So that, they get to sitting down. And long story short, he basically confronts her.
Right, he gets right to it, you know, which is I like that. That's that Nick Fury style.
Yep.
I just wish they would, you know, mirror that in his emotional displays.
Like this scene, I will say some of the highlights of this series has been, you know, a lot of these just dialogue scenes, like Nick Fury and Rhodes when they're in the restaurant and Rhodey fires him. Right. Nick Fury and Talos on the train where they have their big, you know, breakup pretty much. Right. And now this is, I think, our scene with this episode is Nick and Priscilla. Well,
again, you know, the power of the human element in these superhero movies. You know, we got to make the humans, the non-supers, you know, powerful in these movies as well. Because, again, you know, if everybody's got superpowers, then, you know, what kind of movie is going to be?
Yep. And it goes back to that theme that I've felt throughout this show is playing chess. Mm-hmm. You know, Nick's playing verbal chess right here because he's talking to her, and like he called her out about killing him, you know, and he said that, you know, basically being with her was like his biggest mistake, pretty much. Right. But he also said I would probably do it again. So he's conflicted because it is his wife,
right? But
she's also a Skrull,
right?
And he also lied to the Skrulls, and he's wanted dead by the Skrulls. Right. So she's very conflicted. So it's a real screwed up situation. And, you know, he basically calls her out, and what he asked her was, he said, tell me the story about, you know, when you chose that body, pretty much, right? And she gets into this, you know, story about it's an individual, doctor, I believe, who was dying.
Right.
And this is where, you know, this is just that comic. Even I watched it again last night. I'm like, this is just like comic book stuff you just have to accept. Like, all right, so I'm dying, and I'm like, yeah, sure, you can take over my body and live my life, right?
Sure.
You know, so why not? Shit. So basically, but that happened, and I guess we get to learn a little bit more about how these Skrulls work. So I guess you're either in that pod, and they can assume your body and mind, or I guess if you're dead, they could also assume, or maybe before you die.
Well, they can assume your identity regardless, just like Gravik assumed the identity of Nick, you know, out in the Russian thing.
But the knowledge part.
But he doesn't have the knowledge part of him. He just can assume them physically.
Yeah.
But it also shows the depth or the range of, you know, the Skrull race in that they can choose to be, you know, brutal or not, because, you know, not only did she ask permission to assume her identity, she agreed to 3 things.
Yes.
You know, continue to be a daughter to her parents, which she did. Don't hurt Nick, and I forget what the first one
bury
was.
Her body at sea.
Bury her body at sea. So she didn't have to do any of that stuff.
Right.
She could have just let the woman die and then just assumed her identity, or probably just snuck in there and got her memories as well.
Right.
But I mean, I'm assuming that she had to get some part of her memories in order to know who her parents were and how to respond to her family and things like that. So it just shows you the range of the Skrulls, even though they had the capability to just walk alongside you and take your identity and just split off and go and do whatever they want to do with it.
Right. And that's how Nick basically, you know, basically calls her hypocrite. Like, you agreed to this. You took over this lady's body. You did all these. You did the first 2. But the third one, you said you weren't going to hurt me, and now you're here about trying to kill me.
Right.
And then they get into they start saying the same shit. Oh, he asked her what her goal was. So this goes back to the first scene.
Right.
They're at the restaurant in Paris, and he basically asked her what she wanted, right?
To be beloved.
Yeah, it's to call myself beloved.
Right.
And whatever, be here on Earth or whatever. And then at the end of this other scene, he kind of refers back to that, and they both recite this phrase to call myself beloved on the earth or some shit like that.
Right.
And then they both pull out their guns, shoot, right? And obviously, now this is also an issue with just, you know, MCU in general. Because of the fact they have to announce things so far in advance, we know that the Marvels happens after this, and we know Nick Fury's in it. So no part of us ever thought Nick Fury would be killed in this show.
Right.
So I knew no one shot anyone, you know, but it was a cool, it reminded me of like some Kill Bill type shit, like those long dialogue scenes. And so anyways, they both miss each other. They both pull a trigger, miss each other. And he goes, I don't know if, you know, does this mean we should get divorced or renew our vows? Right. It's like a funny little, but this is them breaking up pretty much.
Right.
Anything else on this scene? I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did enjoy the scene. Again, to me, that shows the prominence of this Priscilla character in this show. I'm surprised because she's just kind of one of those characters that's come out of left field.
Yeah.
Even though she's Nick's wife, they didn't have to prop her up like that while they are diminishing this Gaia role. So I'm not at this point. I'm not really even interested in seeing where Gaia goes.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like too late.
Right.
But it's going to be interesting to see where this Priscilla character goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see Rhodes. This is what we talked about earlier. Our prediction from last week.
Yep.
We said that Colonel James Rhodes is a Skrull, and guess what? We see a Skrull taking a shower.
Right.
And then, drying themselves off in the mirror and like just loving life, right? Smiling and all this. And then we see
However, was that a female Skrull?
I think so, because of where the towel was, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Just how the Skrull like was in the shower and moving, and then the towel. So that looked like a female Skrull to me.
It did. And I know it's also hard to tell with the Skrull makeup, like, their features, but even the facial features, it definitely, I'll tell you, it didn't look like a 50-year-old man like James Rhodes. So it's either a young kid or a female, but I think, and I also thought I saw the towel up around here, which I don't know any man in this world that would wear a towel right there. So, no, you never know. But we see that, so I'm assuming female Skrull transforms into James Rhodey in the mirror and is like disgusted, which I thought was cool because we don't like, it's those little nuances. Sometimes you don't see that stuff because, like, Skrulls are impersonating humans, but think about it like if you had to live somewhere, Adrian, you had to impersonate something that was polar opposite from you, like you had to look like a fucking donkey somewhere, right?
Wow, a whole donkey, huh?
Yeah, like you wouldn't be happy about it, right? You wouldn't be excited about, like, let me transfer him into my donkey face today, like. So that's kind of what they're to them, these alien faces, like that's what looks good, and we look like creatures to them, and so she's looking at like Rhodes, like, God, I got to be this person,
right?
So that reveal we predicted, and then who is up in? I can't even call him Rhodes anymore. In the Skrull, who's up in the house?
Right.
Nick Fury.
Nick.
My man Nick.
Nick's everywhere. Yep. Breaking into everybody's stuff.
Like he told y'all, what was it last week? Even when I'm out, I'm still in.
Right.
And he has shown that here that Nick he's a badass chess player, dude.
That's right.
So he shows up and he's got some, some whiskey or something.
Yeah,
or
something like that.
Or something. And alcohol's been like the theme of this show too, right?
Right. But it's interesting that, I'm thinking, how does a Skrull know what this whiskey supposed to taste like?
Yeah.
And how does he know that it's good?
Right.
That kind of caught me, but whatever.
But I guess this Skrull has Rhodes' knowledge, though.
That's true. That's true.
We've still not seen where and that's actually that leads us to a prediction here, Adrian. Because now that we've learned that you can assume a Skrull's knowledge two ways, right? Because Priscilla assumed the Skrull's knowledge from this lady Priscilla,
right?
And she's dead. Now, we know that if you just turn into a Skrull, you're not going to have their knowledge.
Right.
We also know that if you're hooked up to this pod, you can have Skrull knowledge.
Right.
So, I'm going to put you on the spot, dude. James Rhodes, is he in a pod? Is he dead?
I would say he's in a pod because he has to have some level of knowledge, historical knowledge from Rhodes in order to have these deep conversations with Fury. Yeah. I mean, he needs to have some knowledge of Rhodes' history just to know what that whiskey tastes like. Okay,
what if they killed him and he took the knowledge? Do you think he's dead?
I do not think that he's dead.
Okay, me neither. I don't. And maybe this is a little bit of a cheat, but because they've already announced Armor Wars, I'm like, he's got to come back, right?
Right.
So I think he's in a pod somewhere too.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I mean, that's really the whole purpose, I think, of them even showing that pod system.
Yeah.
Because them taking over some knuckle dragger, that's slinging wrenches all day.
Yeah.
They showing him taking away his knowledge to be impersonated by a Skrull. They didn't need to do that.
Right.
I think they're holding this thing out for the more prominent people.
Yep.
Like the president or all these national leaders that they've assumed their identities.
Yeah.
And of course Rhodes.
Yep. And then Fury, I feel like he was testing this Rhodes guy. I think he probably knows he's a Skrull. Right?
I absolutely agree.
He was talking to him very out of character.
Yep.
Like, I've never heard Nick Fury, I don't care who he's talking to, use slang and just be that excited. And it's like, and then Rhodes did too. And I think that's what really tipped us off about him being a Skrull is he also was talking out of character. Because as much as they assume their knowledge, it's just the past stuff.
Right. I mean, Nick basically told him, there's a Skrull impersonating somebody, that's very close to the president. Yep. I mean, he knows.
Oh, yeah. And even the way he said it, as close as you and I are right now. Like, basically, it's you, bro. I know it's you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Rhodes is just like, this again, dude? Like, really? This stuff? And he brings up the video of Nick shooting, Maria Hill, which we knew was Gravik. Basically tells him to screw off. Nick goes there to ask for his job back.
Yep.
But we learned the real reason Nick went there was for the
liquid tracker.
Yes, liquid tracker. Which the minute we get back in the car, we see Talos confirm that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Nick's always pulling something out of you know, from under his sleeves, like he did with the camera on the owl.
Yep.
Then which she found, which he probably whether he cared or not is of no consequence. But he has these little tools that he's always deploying, which makes him Nick Fury.
Yeah. And what's funny is when right before Rhodey went to drink the alcohol, he asked Nick, should I be worried about poison? And he said, no. What do you say? Nanonites or whatever.
Nanites.
Nanites, which, I mean, he basically told him what was in the shit. Because liquid tracker, I'm assuming, would be some type of nanites, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, we've seen nanites in the past with, we've seen it, I guess 5 years prior in MCU time with Tony Stark.
Right. So
they obviously have developed them small enough to be in this liquor. So they track them. And we find out that something big's about to happen, right? They're heading to this. The president is on the road. Rhodey's right behind them, and Gravik is impersonating some Russians. And
before we get to that, I thought it was cute that when the president got off the plane, Rhodes is talking to him. Yes. He's like, dude, get, because I guess he smelled the alcohol on his breath.
Yep.
So that was like a nice comic relief point there. So that was important.
It just drives that point home that like Fury's got you, dude. Like he's in when he's out. But that and he kind of just brushed him off. I think it's cool too. Like it's funny seeing this dynamic between Rhodey and the president. Like he's his advisor, but the president kind of like is annoyed with him.
Right.
Like even the first time when he told him about Fury, he's like, just handle it. Like he's just like, dude, what I gotta deal with you for?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which probably has to do with, because for the longest in the MCU, the government didn't look at the Avengers or Tony at like in the highest of light. Like they despised them, right? So I bet there's probably some of that, right?
Oh, sure. You got something that I don't have or cannot have. So I'm just gonna sit here and simmer while I despise you, kind of a deal.
So Rhodey ends up being in a different car, which actually helps him out because the whole caravan's heading out, and then we see Gravik. They basically shoot a rocket off at the car that the president's in.
Yep.
Car gets blown up, and I thought, for a Marvel, because it's a show, not a movie, this action is, it's the same level as the stuff we see in the movie.
Absolutely, I'm not surprised at this point. But it is cool that the level of detail that they've put into this show to make it look as realistic as possible.
Yep. So thankfully, since Fury had Rhodey drink this liquid tracker, they show up. So we got a big shootout going on.
Right.
And dude, the Russians or the Russians, right? The Skrull Russians are attacking the U.S. They're basically killing everyone around them. And Nick Fury, he's trying to get the president out of the car. And through this, Talos gets shot. Right. And then Talos was also trying to break the window. And now he's turning into a Skrull.
Right.
To use his Skrull strength. Because I guess now, I don't know if this is what it's telling us, but maybe when they look like a person, they're not as strong as they are when they're a Skrull.
I don't think so. I think they have the strength regardless. I think he was turning into a Skrull because he got shot.
Got it.
So he was like,
oh, because he's basically dying.
Exactly.
Yeah. And actually we did see that when someone if they cut your finger off, it turns back into the Skrull.
Right.
Or when you die, you turn back into a Skrull.
Right.
So he's turning back into a Skrull. And eventually he breaks the window, get the president out, right? And it's funny, even when they showed up, they're like, get the president, I'll get him. And Nick Fury's like, I got my own car or something, right? And, shootouts happening. And I think somehow Nick and the president get separated.
Yep.
Or no, I'm sorry. No, Nick gets the president into his car. Talos is shot, and he's picked up by a U.S. soldier. Right? And he's like, I got you or whatever. And he's walking away. And then Nick realizes as this is happening that that's not a U.S. soldier.
Correct.
He tells them to leave him alone, let him go, or whatnot. And then this is also something that we predicted last week here. Actually, I think first week before the show even started, we were talking about people who would die.
Right.
And I think we both agreed on Talos and Maria Hill.
Right.
I said no to Nick Fury. And then you said maybe Emilia Clarke's character.
Right.
Which we saw her die and come back. Right.
So technically the prediction was right.
Prediction was right. And I said Maria Hill and Talos. You said the same. Maria Hill killed episode 1.
Yep.
Right here at this point, Gravik kills Talos. Stabs him through like his heart or whatnot.
Right. Gravik just loved torturing Fury.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm not gonna give you what you want, which is death.
Right.
I'm just gonna kill everybody around you that you love or care about.
Oh, dude, Gravik's a sick fuck. Dude.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's top tier MCU villain. Like,
right.
And one thing we didn't talk about when they first meet up with the soldiers and this fight breaks out, Gravik shows us that he also has group powers.
Right.
Dude, Gravik's a badass.
Yeah.
I almost hope, and I hope this show doesn't end with him being killed. I hope we see him in, like, Armor Wars or something else because he's a badass villain.
They can, like I said, they kill people off and then they bring them back. So I'm sure that even if they do kill them off, they'll figure out some, they'll figure out some kind of way to bring him back.
Right.
Cryogenics, whatever, Or maybe just cut off a piece of his cell and grow him again.
Oh yeah, we've seen that in comic book movies plenty of times, right? But think about, dude, he's a badass between extremists and Groot's powers. And we don't know what else he has.
Right.
I'm sure he doesn't just have 2 powers.
Right.
Because if you remember in that when they first revealed that he was creating super soldiers, there was like 4 or 5 different DNAs that showed up.
Right.
So he probably has some other shit going on.
Yep.
So anyways, he kills Talos. Talos is laid out on the ground. This is pretty much how this episode ends. Again, to your point of him like just wanting to slap Nick Fury around. Another time we see Nick Fury, someone who's close to him, killed, and he has to leave the body there.
Right.
And we saw that with Maria Hill. Like, he just had to drive off, and we see that again here.
Right. Well, with Maria Hill, Talos actually grabbed him, impersonating a Russian military or police, threw him in the van, so he didn't really have a choice there. But I think he had time to grab Talos. In this one, he's just sitting there like, damn, one of those, again, those uncharacteristic to me, weak Nick moments. He had time to go and grab the boy, get him up, throw him in the car and halt, because now he's left them to all of these people that's going to do what with him? Dissect him, because now all of a sudden you got this green alien on the ground.
Right.
That was just wrong, I thought.
Yeah. Yep. And that's how this episode ends. And so we got 2 weeks left. Any predictions where this thing's going, man?
Not at the moment. I'm just kind of like, I don't really have any motivation to think about where this is going to go. Because again, like I said, the last couple of episodes have been like a 5-6 to me.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely like a lot, some decent content, but nothing that's exciting to me.
Got it.
Beyond what we've already kind of predicted. They've kind of like let the cat out of the bag on a couple of things. Rhodey being a scroll.
Yep.
Gaia
any other
coming
scrolls
back.
you think that we're going to find out about in this show?
I actually wouldn't be surprised if Nick is a scroll at this point.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, there's really I wouldn't be surprised if the president, they're trying to kill a president, but that's a figurehead.
Right.
But that's also somebody that Gravik could have assigned, to that position so that they can then do these other things. At this point, anybody's a scroll as far as I'm concerned.
Now, another question. Do you think that after this show, will this show end what we see as far as scrolls, or do you think the scrolls will continue into other projects?
I think they'll continue in other projects, because at this point, anybody can be a scroll.
Right. I think so too. I think this is going to be like a small resolution and then lead into others, because Secret Wars, I believe, also has scrolls in that whole story, and that's one of the Avengers movies.
Right.
So I hope they stay, actually, because I think that some of the as much as I think I like the show more than you. Well, obviously with the score so far, but I think maybe we both agree on just like it has brought a lot more interest into the Skrulls. It has shown us a whole nother side of Marvel, and I think that is something that can be continued. I get what it showed is like the Skrulls can be an interesting part of the story. So I don't think it should stick around just for this series. Like, and also with the whole Jonathan Majors issue going on, and forget about even the Jonathan Majors stuff. Just knowing that Kang was not supposed to be the main focus of everything moving forward. So they got to have something else, right? So I'm okay if it's the Skrulls.
I agree. Also, I like the way that they developed the Skrulls.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, you got the Flash, but you got the Batman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and blah, 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 blah. You got all these, the entire Justice League smashed into
like
one show immediately. I like they developed this thing over time, starting with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Captain Marvel.
So I like the way they developed the Skrulls, and that makes sense. It makes them fit. They're prominent. And I think they could be either way. Obviously, they can be supervillains or they can be allies. So I like the way this, where this is going. I hope to see them in the future.
This may be a crazy prediction, but I'm going to throw it out there. I may be wrong. I'm okay with it because it's like I'm on a streak right now. So I'm on a hitting streak. Okay. I used to be a big baseball guy. You get these 30-game hitting streaks. I'm on like a 25-game hitting streak right now.
Okay.
So I can be wrong about one.
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to predict that Captain Marvel shows up in this series at the end. Maybe that's crazy. But Skrulls, Captain Marvel, we first saw them there. The Marvels is the next movie. Nick Fury's in the Marvels. Somehow we got to go from here to the Marvels. It may be crazy prediction. I'm saying Captain Marvel shows up next 2 weeks.
I wouldn't be surprised. It'd be interesting to see what role she plays in this, considering there's already so many not big name, but prominent portrayals already.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see. But I just hope they do it well. Make the transition seem viable.
Yeah.
If the next movie is the Captain Marvel, don't even show her if it's kind of a stupid, appearance.
Yep. All right. That wraps up our deep dive. Now, more fun stuff. Bruce Wayne Batman. Right.
Yep.
So there's two difference. People go, who's your favorite one? Or when people ask favorite Batman, they always ask favorite Batman. Never talking about Bruce Wayne too. And I feel like my list is different on both sides.
Yep.
I'm assuming yours probably is.
Well, it is different. Well, not so much.
Not so much.
I really only have one change.
Okay. So only one change, but still different.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And before we even go on our list, there's always this debate among fans. And I'd be interested. I know where you stand. We've discussed this before, but I'd be interested to see if the universe agrees with us. What is the mask? Is Bruce Wayne the mask? Is Batman the mask? Like, who is his true identity? And in your opinion,
absolutely, Bruce Wayne is the mask.
Yes. Yep, I agree. And I would assume most people agree with us.
Right.
So I'd be interested to hear what y'all say. Do you think is Bruce Wayne the mask and Batman's the real person, or is Batman the mask and Bruce Wayne really who this character is?
Yep.
I agree with Adrian. I think Bruce Wayne's the mask. I think Batman is where Bruce can really be who he wants to be. I think he is all about solving crime, protecting Gotham, making sure that what happened to him, like that's his why, that's his goal in life is to try to prevent what happened to him.
Not only is Batman his why, but Gotham is his where.
Yeah.
Like Superman needs permission to operate in Gotham.
Yep.
From Batman. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Dude, and on another note, I shared with you and everyone here last week that I've been watching the Daredevil Netflix series. And Daredevil, now, I love this series so far. I enjoy it.
Yep.
I will say the Daredevil character seems to be heavily influenced by Batman.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Right.
This is my city. How many times does Daredevil say that, in this show? This is my city.
Yep.
Same shit Batman says about Gotham. He is brutal and violent.
Yep.
It's almost like, dude, watching that show, and this is another shot at DC, Detective Comics. Think about, actually, here's another one, too. Why do we say DC Comics? What does DC stand for? Detective Comics.
Right.
So it's Detective Comics Comics? Because if we're saying DC, it's like the ATM machine. We don't say ATM machine because it's automated teller machine. Just say ATM.
Right. It's like in the Spider universe when the Indian Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What was it? The T.
Yeah.
It's some name for something that actually meant T.
Right.
You don't say that name plus T.
Yep. Same thing. So this is kind of DC. Please tell me why y'all say DC Comics when DC, as far as I remember, stood for Detective Comics. So Detective Comics. But anyway, so I don't even know where I was going with that. But Bruce Wayne Batman. So, what was I going to say?
Oh, you were talking about Daredevil being heavily influenced about Batman.
So, yeah, sidetrack. Back on track now. It's like squirrel, like
of course.
Shit, run off. ADHD generation we are.
That's
it. DC, this is what y'all need to do. Go watch the Daredevil show and make a Batman show just like that.
Right.
Because the way they portrayed Daredevil, it's almost like you just want to throw a freaking Batman cape on him and throw him and give him a Batarang because this would be perfect.
Right.
But instead, we got all this other crap they're doing. You know. But so our list, Bruce Wayne. Now, you have 6 on your list?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep.
Perfect. All right, because I know last time I screwed up with the X-Men one. You had the what was it? Not New Mutants, one of the other movies. But anyway, Bruce Wayne. So my number 6 is my man that. Here we go, Andy Muschietti again. My man, that Andy Muschietti, pulled out all the stops with the Flash. He said, we are bringing in the worst performing Bruce Wayne of all time, George Clooney.
Right. He's my number 6 for both.
What a surprise. Mine too. Yep. So, number 5, I'm going with, and this is, now I enjoyed him more than George Clooney, but he's no Michael Keaton. He's no Affleck. My number 5 Bruce Wayne is Val Kilmer.
Same here.
For
both.
Right. My number 4. This is where I think you and I are going to get a little different, okay? Because I have Batman 5 and 6 the same. Clooney 6, Val Kilmer 5 on Bruce Wayne and Batman side. On the Bruce Wayne side for number 4, I have your favorite. No, he's not your favorite. He's maybe your second favorite, Michael Keaton.
I have Robert Pattinson.
Wow. Okay.
As number 4.
Got it.
For both.
For both.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
My number 4 for Batman is Ben Affleck.
Okay.
Okay. Now these are like, but to be fully transparent, the number 4 slot for me is where I start enjoying the Batman because George Clooney was trash. Both.
Right.
Val Kilmer was a little bit better, but just it was like too much like Michael Keaton, but also like a little different, and the different wasn't good. It's like I wish he would have just made it his own.
Right.
And so, but this is where we get a little different. So number 4, Michael Keaton. I'm not a big fan of his Bruce Wayne, obviously. But on my number 4 side on the Batman, I am a big fan of the Ben Affleck Batman.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that's where the scale starts to go up for me and my Batman. So your number 4?
My number 4, 6, 5, 4. No, it's Robert Pattinson.
Oh, Pattinson, both.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Pattinson 4 and 4. So if y'all let us know who you agree with. So our 5 and 6 were the same. My 4 on Bruce Wayne was Keaton. Adrian's 4 on Bruce Wayne was Pattinson. My 4 on Batman was Affleck. Adrian's 4 on Batman was Pattinson as well.
Correct.
My number 3, Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck. I feel like Ben looks the part probably more than anyone else on this list. And he played that older Bruce Wayne, and I thought he really embodied the character. I really enjoyed it. My number 3 on Batman is your man, your favorite, Christian Bale.
Okay.
And this is, again, my Batman numbers are ranked higher for me, so this is not a knock on him. My biggest issue with the Christian Bale Batman is the damn voice. Look over her. Where is she? Like, I don't. What are you saying?
Right.
It's like this is where I wish we had a crossover. We had Deadpool and Batman, because he'd be like, "Hey, I don't know what you're saying." Like,
exactly.
He would just stop. Like, can you repeat that, please? Like, I can't make out with the growly voice. Like, no one knows who you are. Can you just lighten it up a little bit? So I hated that, but. Some of my favorite Batman movies come from the Christian Bale Batman. Dark Knight's one of my favorite movies of all time. I thought the Batman suit, that'll be a fun show, one ranking the suits. Like, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
I thought the Dark Knight suit was pretty badass.
Yep, I agree.
I wasn't a big fan of the Batman Begins suit, mainly just because of how the cowl, he couldn't even move his damn head.
Right.
But Dark Knight suit, definitely up there.
Yep.
So my number 3, Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck. My number 3, Batman, Christian Bale. What you got?
My number 3 is Michael Keaton for both.
Okay, cool. My number 2, Bruce Wayne, Robert Pattinson.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the dark, broody Pattinson or Bruce Wayne. It's funny when some of the critiques came out, I was just like shaking my head, like, dude, you guys just don't know what Batman. Because they're like, I don't like how he's so depressed and he's all moody and he's dark. It's like, okay, let me ask you a question. Imagine you're 9 years old.
Mm.
Imagine you went to go watch a movie with your parents.
Mm.
Imagine you started crying because the movie was scary, and then your dad gave in and he left the theater with you and your mom. Then imagine you started walking down the alley, and imagine, we all seen this 100 times.
Right.
Joe Chill comes over and kills both your parents. Your mom's pearls go everywhere, and now you're an orphan being raised by Alfred in this, spooky ass mansion.
Right.
Explain to me how you're not going to be depressed, moody, have eyeliner on. I mean, whatever,
Right.
I mean, explain to me how you're not going to live at night and be like, come on.
Right. Jumping rooftops, beating people up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need an outlet. Yeah,
Exactly.
you're going to be all those things.
Exactly. And especially in your second year, right? It's
Right.
like, dude, I mean, LeBron James wasn't LeBron James of year 10 and year 2, right? So it's like Bruce Wayne, he ain't going to be that playboy, philanthropist year 2.
Right.
My man just started coming out of the house. Like,
It's funny. It reminds me of, I think it was cartoon Batman where he went back in time with Robin. I think it was Damian.
Yep.
And they saw Batman year 1.
Yep.
I am the night. I am vengeance. And they look at Damian, look at him like laughing at him like, dude, you really said
Yes,
that?
yes, I do remember that. Which again, going to the Batman Brave and the Bold, they are going to include Damian Wayne, and I hope they get the casting right.
Well, hopefully not Damian Wayne, but
Yeah. No, Damian Wayne's going to be in the Batman movie. He's going to be the Robin.
the basketball dude, Damian Wayne.
No, Robin, Damian Wayne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got some names mixed up then.
Nope, Little Robin, Batman's son.
Got it.
Yep. So, anyways, so my number, that was my number 2. Pattinson, Bruce Wayne, Michael Keaton, Batman. What you got?
My number 2 is Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck, Batman.
Yep.
And Christian Bale, Bruce Wayne.
Got it. Okay. Interesting, because Bale's your favorite, but you don't think he's the best Bruce Wayne.
Nope,
Nope.
not out of the 2.
Okay.
I mean, it might as well roll into number 1. So it's basically the opposite for number 1. So Christian Bale was my favorite Batman, and I do believe that Ben Affleck really embodied the Bruce Wayne character.
Wow, so putting Ben Affleck is number 1.
Yep, number 1 on the Bruce Wayne side.
Wow. Imagine if they would have given him like good content and like a good script and stuff. Imagine if they had like a good Batman movie with Ben Affleck.
I think that if Nolan had directed a Ben Affleck with that Dark Knight suit, Ben Affleck would have been just off the charts.
Yeah.
Even though he has played Batman more than Christian Bale.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So I didn't even realize that until we started. I'm like, wow, he's played like in 4 different movies as Batman, and Christian Bale only did the trilogy.
Yep. And I really enjoyed the first Ben Affleck Batman suit, the one from Batman vs. Superman. It was that Dark Knight Returns suit, right?
Yep.
It was it was inspired by that, and it looked more like the gray tights almost. It wasn't as tactical and as armory, which, and it's like, I do have a favorite. I mean, I like them all. I really like the Pattinson suit. I like the fact that it's like a real suit, like it's armor. He's got, all these different little compartments. There's Gatling guns on the side of it, and it's all built very practical. It's not like the cartoons where he has this small ass yellow belt and he pulls all this shit out of it.
Right.
It's like those little cars, like in the cartoons where like 40 people come out of this little tiny car. So your number 1 Bruce Wayne was Ben Affleck. Your number 1 Batman's Christian Bale.
Correct.
My number 1 Bruce Wayne's Christian Bale, which I really liked his Bruce Wayne. I thought he not the look as much as Ben Affleck, but I thought I really saw Bruce Wayne in him, and I liked the way he portrayed in that fake playboy.
Right.
Because that's the other thing too. Tony Stark is playboy.
Right.
Like he ain't faking that. You're not twisting his arm. Bruce Wayne is not. That's an act.
But also Tony Stark and Iron Man are the same people.
Yes.
Batman and Bruce Wayne are 2 completely different personalities, 2 different complete people.
Yep. And I like how like there was even times where he's pretending to be drunk and he's just drinking water.
Right.
Like he just like it was so that was true to the comic. So I enjoyed that. My number 1 Batman, and you're gonna probably fall out of your chair, is Robert Pattinson.
I That's not a surprise at all. Not at all.
No, I would say it's not a surprise to fall out of your chair because you disagree.
Right.
But I really enjoyed just how true to comics this portrayal was. I also, you talk about screen time and whatnot. And I've not checked this, so if any of y'all out there know the answer, but based off of the amount of time that, like, I think as far as any Batman portrayal, I bet Pattinson was in the suit on screen more than any other Batman.
Probably.
This is the first movie where we got to see Batman act.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the other ones, he's just there for the fight scenes, couple of dialogue. Like, dude, he's doing detective work, and the fact that we could see these emotions through just this little box in his mouth and just the eyes. I mean, I thought it was a great job. So I really enjoyed that Batman portrayal. He's my number one. So there's our list. So you said, Adrian, the universe agrees with your Batman.
Yep.
Christian Bale, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say, I don't know. I would lean – now, if you asked me a couple of years ago, I'd say – Pattinson just came out last year. If you asked me last year, I'd say most people would agree with you. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking they're coming over to the light. They come over to the good side. So let's see. What do y'all say? Pattinson, number one. Bale, number one, Batman. And the rest of our list. You agree? You don't? What's your list? I'm interested to see other people's opinions here. But so that's our wrap-up. My list, Bruce Wayne goes 6 Clooney, 5 Kilmer, 4 Keaton, 3 Affleck, 2 Pattinson, 1 Bale. My Batman, 6 Clooney, 5 Kilmer, 4 Affleck, 3 Bale, 2 Keaton, 1 Pattinson. What you got, Adrian?
My guys are the same, except we get down to number 1. You got Clooney, Batman and Bruce, Val Kilmer, Batman and Bruce, Pattinson, Batman and Bruce, Keaton, Batman and Bruce. And the switch up is Batman, Ben Affleck, Bruce, Christian Bale, and then the exact opposite for the number 1 spot, Christian Bale, Batman, and Affleck as Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne, number 1. There you have it. Well, that was fun. We will in the future figure out some way to rank Batman suits.
Yeah,
because that'd be fun. There's a lot of good ones. There's some bad ones. I mean, for every Robert Pattinson, for every Christian Bale Dark Knight suit, we have a George Clooney nipple suit. Right. So, there's always one to offset it, right?
Oh, my God. I could have not, had that flashback.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And actually, I guess that'd be like a spoiler in advance. Just like Clooney was last on both of our lists here, I would assume that no matter what we pull up for suits, the end George Clooney silver suit with the nipples is probably going to be number 6 or the last one, whatever it is.
Definitely going to be. I think we should also, what they say behind every great man is a great woman, right?
Yeah. Yep.
We should rank like the Catwomans.
Ooh. Okay.
Or the Lois Lanes.
Yep.
I think that'd be interesting because I think Zoe Kravitz kind of knocked it out the park in the last Batman movie with Pattinson.
All right.
I think she did a real good job.
Why don't we do that? Hey, why don't we do that next week then?
Oh, okay.
Now, Catwoman, we'll have to expand it because there's only 2 movie universe Catwoman.
Right.
But we could look at shows. I mean, basically any type of live action.
Yep.
So whether it could be the old Adam West Batman. There was the Catwoman on there.
Yep.
All right. So next week, we're ranking Catwoman.
There we go.
Live action, actresses, movies, shows, any form of art.
Sure.
As long as it's a real person. So that's it for this week. This was fun as always.
Yep.
And again, next week we'll be back on with episode 5 of Secret Invasion.
Yep.
We'll have our Catwoman rankings. It'll be fun too. Is once we get past this show, we can start getting into some other topics on here, some cool stuff, comic book world. And hey, if they keep pausing movies, we're going to get into a lot of physical comic stuff on here.
Right. But I mean, we also want to expand into other stuff as well.
Yeah.
Too. So there's like developing characters. There's just so much comic content out there we can get into. But we're just kind of rolling with what's top of the whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
In the news right now. So this is cool.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike. This is Adrian. We are Only Comics. This is where we discuss comics and only comics. We'll see you next week.
See ya.